Welcome back to the Sound for More channel and welcome back to another tutorial. Today I have the pleasure to show you how easy it is to use the drum sequencer inside MooMu. Before I continue, I would like to remind my viewers to subscribe as it helps with growing the channel. Additionally, if you like what I do and would like to support, please do check the instruction contained in each video description. Thank you again. So let's maximize this screen. We are inside AUM, but you can also run in standalone, no problem. So let's go to preset and let's select new to create a new preset. Okay, let's click and select MIDI to CV and delete. We click here on the button DEL for delete and we remove that module because we don't need the MIDI to CV to trigger notes. We're going to use the sequencer. Okay, let's click on module and now let's search. The first thing we need to do is to bring in a clock module. Click, drag and drop. Why do we need a clock module? Because that sends signal and determine clock or subdivisions to trigger the drum sequencer. Next, we need a drum sequencer. So let's search for drum. There it is. Click, drag and drop and we have a drum sequencer. Next, we need to have some samples that produce sound. So we're going to have one for a kick, another one for a snare and another one for hi-hat. Okay, finally we need to have a mixer to take all those drum sound module, mix them all together. So alpha mixer will do with 5 different channels, and then of course send only one signal inside the audio input output. Okay, let's make the connection. First we drive the 16th note subdivision out from the clock inside the clock here input so that the clock will drive. When I click around, you see here is driving a subdivision or 16th note, the drum sequencer. Okay, next we are going to perhaps connect the reset if we need to hit the button to reset, and you also have another input to choose the different pattern. Now let's drive. Let me show you how you connect the drum sample, one drum sample module to the drum sequencer. You take the level here, you go to the accent, so you establish based on the level output how much accent to give to that sample, and then you trigger it like so. Okay, and then you take the output here, you go to the first input of the mixer. Now you repeat the same for the second and third. So here we go to the accent here like so for the level, and then we take the output here to the trigger, and then the trigger of the third sample module or drum sample module. Take the of course the output like so. Okay, and finally we connect the output of the alpha mixer, which merges all these drum sample sounds driven by this drum sequencer, driven by this clock, to send the audio to the audio input and output. As you notice, we have a new tab called Drum CSEQ for sequencer. If you click on it, you get to this view where you can actually start to draw your pattern, which is really, really easy. So let's run, click around here. Let's go to the drum sequencer and let's start to build a little bit of a pattern. Now, you don't hear anything. Why don't you hear anything? It's because you have to adjust here. You have to adjust the output of each channel, right? And we have to do that for all three. Okay, let's click around here. Well, actually, let's choose, let's build like so, a bit of a pattern with hi-hat and snare here and a hi-hat, of course. And then what we are going to do is, press play. And with this dial here, you can, as you can see, as you move it up, you adjust this sample. In this case, you change it to snare. So let me show you as it is running. And then you can change the sample there as well. So in doing like this, you can change the velocity here up and down for each of the different steps, which is great. You can also mute, change the probability, and this is where you change actually the pattern number. Yeah, you can have more than one pattern, which is absolutely fantastic, right? So let's play again. Now, you might want to use, for example, a delay on the hi-hat. How do you do that? Well, go to Module, search first of all for delay, like so. And then, of course, you need to drag and drop. Let's drag it here before the alpha mixer, okay? And then let's take the output from the hi-hat. Instead of going to this third input here, the mixer, we go to the delay input and we take the output from the delay, we go to the input of the alpha mixer. And now let's play. And what is happening here? We have inserted a delay for the hi-hat, and of course we can change the dry wet mixture, the timing, reduce the feedback, of course, and so on and so forth. You can actually customize it as you like it. So for example, let's say that we want to add a reverb, like so, a free reverb, and we're going to add that to the snare, like so. We close the module. So again, we take the input here on the mixer from the drum sample, we go to the free reverb input, and then we take the output from the free reverb and we go back to the input of the alpha mixer. And now let's play. And in this way, we have a delay, which is applied to the hi-hat. As you can hear, is still ongoing in the background. And we have a verb effect or reverb effect applied to the snare. And you can keep going like that. Of course, if you want to reduce the feedback on the delay, just reduce it here, right? Okay, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I think this is one of the few modular synth or virtual synth that has such an easy to use drum sequencer. And remember, you can drive the pattern changes. I'll show you that in another tutorial. But here we have pattern 1. You can move to other patterns as well, depending, and therefore you can simulate drum sequences, okay, or different patterns which go in sequence, and there are different ways to go about that using Modular. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and as always, see you next time. Bye.